Hello and welcome to Shifting the Atmosphere with Federica, where I talk to ordinary people doing some extraordinary things. I'm your host, Federica Peterson. I'm a certified executive and life coach, business mentor, best-selling author, and adjunct professor. I'm here to partner with you in your transition journey to help build your confidence, elevate your thinking, and shift your perspective to empower you to cast a new vision and redefine what's possible. Or in other words, shift your atmosphere. After experiencing her own life transition, Dr. Herbert learned some incredibly powerful truths about living a fulfilled life. After a successful career helping people as a medical doctor for over 23 years, she's now seeking fulfillment in her next chapter of life, and the journey is just beginning. So let's tell you a little bit about Dr. Lisa Herbert. Dr. Herbert brings over 20 years' experience in providing primary care as a family medical physician in clinical private practice. During that time, she dedicated several years as a clinical assistant professor in the Department of Family Medicine at the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey, where she mentored and taught medical students and residents. Dr. Herbert received the degree of Fellow from the American Academy of Family Physicians, which is the highest honor in her field. It recognizes physicians who have distinguished service in their communities and to the field of family medicine through medical education and research. She was also recognized by the American Medical Association and the Physician Recognition Award and received several awards from organizations for her work providing programs and education on optimal health and wellness in her community. After a successful career practicing in the medical field, Dr. Lisa Herbert, a busy mom, physician, and wife, took back her life and redefined work-life balance. She reclaimed her time, recharged her battery, renewed her commitment to herself, and restored her relationships. Dr. Herbert established Just the Right Balance, LLC, a company that offers coaching, consulting, workshops, and training using principles of positive psychology to help clients in high-stress, demanding careers bring about positive change and achieve optimal well-being as they pursue their career goals and balance their family life. Dr. Herbert's new book, Take Back Your Life, A Working Mom's Guide to Work-Life Balance, is for women who are ready to make the changes necessary to live their best life, to have balance in their relationships and careers, and time for themselves to stay healthy and energized. Dr. Lisa Herbert, thank you so much for joining the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Well, the rite of passage for everyone that joins my show or my program is that you have to tell us the journey. So what is the journey that got you to this place where you are today?
Yeah, so thank you. I definitely would like to share, my story with your audience. So the journey basically that got me to the place where I am today is, I wanted to sort of take a step back and sort of look at where I was professionally and personally. And I felt that there was some internal conflict going on in my professional and personal life. So I was a family physician. I am a family physician. I served my community for 22 years. And I started to realize that I really wanted to make a transition from being sort of a healthcare provider that provided one-to-one, attention with my patients to transition to a career where I can actually spread my message to a larger audience. And I was really looking to spread my message of health and wellness and balance to women, through speaking engagements and workshops and things of that nature. And then on the personal side, I started to realize that my roles were starting to define me. So meaning that, my role of being a physician, a mom, a wife, a daughter was really starting to define who I was, and I really wanted to show up in the world in a different space. I wanted to really start to kind of reflect and take back the time that I felt that I had lost really along the way and start doing some of the things that I enjoyed.
Well, that was actually pretty good. You did that in a pretty nice, neat, compact little way, but I'm going to unpack a little bit of that. As I always do, because
yes.
You got me on this one thing. I'm like, wait a minute, my ears are perking up. So you were saying that the role started defining who you were. I want you to talk about that a little bit. when you say those roles are starting to define you. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that just along my sort of professional, career path, there were certain goals, right, that I wanted to achieve. So one was becoming a doctor and, then becoming, obviously a successful physician, a business owner. And then along the way, you get married and you have children. So then you start to take on those roles. And I felt that those roles were really kind of defining who I was. So when I would show up, carrying, all the weight of these titles. I had to show up as a physician, I had to show up as a wife, I had to show up as a mother. And I was starting to really kind of lose who Lisa was, who was I as a person without, if I peeled back the layer of those roles, who was I as a person? So that was part of the journey, really, was to really start uncovering, those roles and really try to figure out who I was. I always knew who I was, but somewhere along the way, I think I just sort of gotten lost in all the responsibilities.
Yeah, and that can happen. And I find it interesting how you describe the titles. It's the weight of the titles. So that was interesting word choice. Like the weight of the titles. It sounds like they were heavy for you.
Yeah,
why were they heavy? Yeah, why were they heavy?
Well, I think they were heavy because, a lot of it was just basically, I think, the weight I was putting on myself. Not that the roles themselves were really oh my gosh, I'm dragging all this along with me. But I wanted to sort of be, successful, whatever, you kind of think about that definition. You want to be, successful in all of those roles. So I had to be, the best mom, the best wife, the best physician. So that was really the weight I was carrying. It was I wanted to kind of, I think sometimes even just push myself a little bit more than I really needed to.
Right. I get it. So the weight was more like the expectation that you put on yourself for those titles, right? And boy, do we do that. Do we do that? Oh, my gosh. And we'll go off on these tangents based on these false expectations that we have placed upon ourselves or what we think other people have placed on. Oh, my Lord, that could be a whole show. That can be a whole show. But you found yourself really wanting to move into a different space. And it sounds like kind of shifting those expectations a bit. And redefining that purpose. That's kind of what I'm hearing. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's what I'm hearing. And it looks like it took you to your book, this book that you've written, which was Take Back Your Life. And so tell us about that book, what inspired you to write it, everything.
Yeah. So, what inspired me to write it was, along my journey, it really was a way for me just to sort of reflect, in terms of where I was and then sort of where I was going and where I wanted to be. So for me, writing was therapeutic. So it really helped me to sort of, flesh a lot of that stuff out. And then I also realized that, I wasn't alone in this journey, that there were other women who were definitely experiencing what I was experiencing as well. So I wanted the book to really be a platform to provide not only for myself, but to provide to other women to give them sort of a framework for how do you do that? How do you take back your life? What are some of the things that you need to kind of lay down as a foundation in order to get from, point A to point B?
Right. And I think, when I hear that title, Take Back Your Life, it almost feels more like an affirmation than, right? It feels more like an affirmation that this is now where I'm at in the season of my life. And what I found, and I don't know if you found this as well, so it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts around this, but when we get to this stage in life, and it's a stage I think that people get to, and we get to it at different ages, but I feel like in order to lay something down, you have to identify that it's there. And sometimes we don't even realize that it's there because we've had this habit or this tendency to do this thing, whether it be a coping mechanism, whether it be just something we've been tolerating, whatever it is. But sometimes it's hiding in the midst of who we've defined ourselves to be. And it's in the process of that redefinition when we recognize it. And then we're able to put it down. And so is that something that you can relate to? And if you can, Talk about that a little, and is that kind of highlighted in your book?
Yeah. So I definitely relate to that 100%. I think what I was, and you can give it different, terms, but I think I was calling it more of like a self-awareness, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
So definitely just becoming, having clarity and just really saying what it is. I call it like owning my story,
I love that.
saying where I was, in the process and being really truthful about it.
Yeah.
Instead of just trying to, like you said, cope with it, and try to do things that sort of just hide, the story. So that's a big piece that I had to go through, and it is something that I do highlight in the book. It's really just laying down the foundation of sort of where you are right now, what's going on right now, so that you can have the clarity to use that to move forward and to make the changes that you need to make. Because if you don't know where you are, you can't really make the changes, to move forward.
Absolutely. And I think that that literally gets me to this next question that I was going to ask you, which is like, around getting stuck in the rut. And when we were talking and preparing for this show, that was one of the things that you mentioned to me, that, that if you didn't really want to get stuck in this rut of just doing something, right? And I think that goes back to maybe what I was saying, is like, we can just get caught up in the habit of things and not even have any meaning behind them, right? So when we talk about that, not getting stuck in the rut of just doing something, what does that look like? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I think for me, the getting stuck in the rut was really about, it was really making excuses, for staying in the space. It was making excuses for staying in the space where I was,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Like, I don't have time. Or, this is just how it's supposed to be. All women go through this. Of course I'm stressed. Of course I don't have time for myself. Of course I don't have time for exercise.
Yeah. We self-sabotage. We don't get going on that.
Self-sabotage, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and even when I felt kind of like bubbling up in me, the passions that I kind of wanted to pursue, I would sort of push them down because, nope, it's not the right time. I can't do it now. Why am I thinking about it? I have all this other stuff going on.
Yeah.
So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So for me, the stuck in the rut thing was really just making the excuses of not really wanting to kind of, break out and do what I kind of really wanted to do and make some changes.
Yeah. You know what? When you're explaining that to me, I can think of several instances in life where I have done that, and many other people that I have talked to as well. But I know for me, it's almost like, I look at it as self-sabotaging, because you can see it, it's there, the passion is in you, but you don't know how to get to it. And because it's going to require some work, we go, you know what, I just don't have time for this right now.
Yeah.
But it is until, right? But it is until the rubber meets the road and it starts to get to the point where it's starting to mess with your mental health, right?
Yes.
I can continue doing this and have a sane state of mind. I'm going to pick up the scissors and start running with them at people, that you realize it's time that I need to really explore this. And I'm not sure how. But, and I think everybody gets to that place differently, right? And that in that starting place differently. For me, it was just kind of, I just dropped everything that I knew and said, okay, I'm just going to sit here for a minute so I can figure out what's happening. And then I would just take these one step after the other, not knowing where that step was going to lead me, but just believing that I knew there was something greater, and whatever that greater thing was brought me to this place of this new slate that was presented to me to start to create. But what did that look like for you? When did the revelation of, okay, I cannot make excuses about this anymore, when did that happen for you?
Yes. So, I think it was just, like I said, I talked about making the excuses, and then it was sort of just like, I felt like I can explain it now, but at the time didn't really have words for it.
Believe me, I'm right there with you.
Yes. So I felt like I was in survival mode. Like I was just kind of just doing the thing just to kind of get through the day, get to the next day, and get to the next week, and, so on and so forth. So unless, someone or really something pushes us to change, we kind of stay in that survival mode. So for me, I think what pushed me to change was that a couple of things. One, it was I started to realize, or it became apparent to me through my daughter, actually, and I talk about this a lot. My daughter and I have a very close relationship, and she's very, for her age, she's older now, but at the time, she's very aware of what's going on. And so we were having a conversation, and she just sort of said to me one day, she said, Mom, I just have to tell you, you're looking more stressed lately. I don't feel like, when we talk that you're listening to me. Like, what's going on? And I thought, wow, okay, so if this child is noticing, that there's definitely this change or this internal conflict that I'm dealing with, then this must be how I'm showing up, and unless I really make the change for the better, this is not how I want our relationship to continue, nor my relationship with, any of my other loved ones.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was definitely one of the things I think that pushed me to sort of take a deeper look, in terms of what was going on.
And that's good. I think that, it depends on what your situation looks like. For me, I was, because I live alone, I don't have family. It was my own kind of that brick wall that I hit. But it can be our loved ones or people that are close to us around us that notice, okay, what's happening? And that's kind of our wake-up call. It looks a little bit different for everyone. And what I would love for you to talk about, we're going to take a little break, but when we come back, what I'd love for you to talk about is how do you help people in that process? So I know the book was kind of around taking back your life, and I'm sure there's some steps there as we're going through each of these stages that we're talking about, that you might be able to talk to somebody out there that could be experiencing their own discomfort right now in their life, and they're not really sure how to address it. So I want you to talk about that when we come back. But before we take this break, I want you to tell folks, how do they connect with you, get in touch with you, and get your book?
Yes, definitely. Thank you. So, yes, your audience definitely can get in touch with me by visiting my website. It's www.justtherightbalance.com. And my website has also the link there for my book, as well as, how to contact me as well.
Okay.
And also on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Just the Right Balance.
That makes it so easy. So it's just the right balance. I like it. Okay. Hang tight. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Federica, host of Shifting the Atmosphere. I'm a certified executive and life coach, speaker, best-selling author, and radio show host. I invite you to join me here on Shifting the Atmosphere with Federica as I talk to ordinary people doing some extraordinary things. My purpose is simple. It's to help you get out of your own way so I can help you get unstuck and inspire you to not only move forward, but to thrive onward. My guests and I will introduce you to new perspectives that will help you to build your confidence and elevate your thinking so you can ultimately shift your atmosphere. You can check out more information about my show, as well as information on upcoming guests, and listen to past episodes on podcast by visiting my website at www.fredericapeterson.com. Follow me on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and check out past episodes of this show on YouTube. And we're back. You are listening to Shifting the Atmosphere with Federica, and I'm here today with my guest, Dr. Lisa Herbert. And we're talking about her new book, Take Back Your Life. And what I wanted her to talk about now, but we talked about at the end of the last segment, was really kind of give somebody those steps that they need to follow when they're starting to get to that point where there's some discontent going on. They don't really know how to take those steps forward or how to address what's happening with them. So what things do you suggest for people to do when they start to get to this place?
Yeah, so the first thing that I suggest for people to do is, one is just to learn how to manifest clarity in your life, right? Because I think we just have to become very, very clear about sort of where we are. So there's several ways that I think you can do that. One is just by journaling, just by writing it down, and you can do that, daily. Another way to kind of get clarity is through meditation, which is also, very easy. Some people think, it's this hard thing to do, but meditation is very, very, very easy to incorporate. You only have to do it for 5 or 10 minutes, at a time.
And that is meditation, not medication, people.
Right,
okay.
right. Meditation, exactly.
Meditation, not medication.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Journaling, meditation, and even prayer, just sort of just laying it out there in terms of just asking and sort of seeking that clarity. So that's the first step, I think. And then after that, I usually tell my clients that what we kind of work through is really just taking a look at sort of where you are in your life. So the exercise really is to sort of, if you were to break, your life up into, several quadrants, what would the most important ones be to you? So it could be, your spirituality, health and wellness, your relationships, your career, your personal time. So those are 5. And then you can add any others that you sort of want, whether it's, money or community, into that sort of wheel as well. And then being very honest with yourself about where you are in those areas of your life. So you can scale it or grade it, on a scale of 1 to 10. You can journal about it, but whatever it is, just to sort of put it out there on paper to look at it so that, you can visualize it, is the first step.
Okay. That's huge. That is huge. And those steps you outline in your book as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. There's actually
huge.
About 2 or 3 chapters just on that.
Yeah.
On getting clear about, because it's a process.
Getting clear is a process. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight, but certainly, there are steps that you can take to sort of get to where you want to be.
Absolutely. And so you say in your own transition that a coach was really helpful in your transition process. How was hiring a coach helpful for you?
Yeah, so hiring a coach was helpful for me because I really needed to work through the clarity piece. And the coach really helped me to become clear about what I wanted. Yeah. Not only just to become clear, but also to help me get rid of the obstacles and the negative, self-talk that we often sometimes sabotage ourselves with. Yeah. It's not possible, the sort of I can't do it, all of that sort of stuff. So she was just very helpful in that space, and also just to help me in a very constructive, non-judgmental way, because that's the other thing too. A lot of times that we fear kind of telling other people about where we want to be because of the fear of rejection, or what are they going to say? What are people going to think? So this non-judgmental environment was very helpful for me. And then just being my accountability partner of sort of just helping me to formulate the plan and then, stick to it.
Yeah, that's good. And that's typically what coaches are. I mean, a lot of times what will happen is folks will believe that they'll find a coach and then a coach is going to tell them what to do.
Right.
But that's not what a good coach will not do that. They will literally help you get to the answers because you're the one that has the answers. And so they'll ask you a lot of questions that may even be uncomfortable at times. But the more uncomfortable the question, the deeper that they're getting and the more results you're going to find. Because in those sessions, what I found in coaching clients is most of the work doesn't happen in the session. It happens after the session.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
It started tapping into some things you hadn't thought about, and then it just gets the ball rolling. But it really pulls up that clarity. So I love that you were able to find a coach and they helped you through that. And I highly recommend that for anybody that is in that space of transition, is to find a coach, find someone that specializes in that. I do, of course, and certainly you can reach out to me to find out, if maybe I don't work for you, somebody else does, because I know lots of coaches, because they're different. Even though coaches may do the same thing, but every coach is different, and not every coach is for everyone. And so it's an important thing to make sure you're vetting out, just like you would a doctor.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. So here's my next question for you. how would you consider yourself having successfully transitioned to the next phase of your life? And tell us about that.
Yeah, so that's a good question, because first I think that it's a matter of how you define even the word success, right?
Yes, that's the hot word. That's the hot
word. So
yep.
What does really success mean to you?
Yeah.
So for me, I would have to answer that as I have successfully transitioned, because for me, success was making the decision to do it and then actually taking action.
Right.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Because it's still a work in progress, as, we all have goals, and, some of those goals you still are working towards. And the hard part of really the transition is just making the decision to first recognizing it, making the decision to do it, and then actually putting the plan in place.
Yeah.
So for me, the success was doing it and putting the plan in place.
Yes. And I think that's the big part. It's execution. Because we can make that decision, and it becomes just like it did when we first realized we needed to do something. We come up with every excuse in the world why we can't do it right now, or it needs to be done yesterday. If I do that, I won't have time for this. I'll get to it now that I understand what it is, especially that. Because you feel like you've accomplished something just understanding what it is, but now you need to take it to the next place.
Right.
Because have you experienced this? I'm going to ask you if you've experienced this, because I know I've seen this. And when you started to move through transition, things that you looked at one way now start to look a little bit differently. So there's a whole nother level of transition that even happens in your perspective while you're going through transition. There's like several phases of this thing. What do you think? Has that been happening with you as well?
Yeah, I definitely think there are several phases of transition, definitely. Because even for me, I think on the professional side, I started out, again, knowing kind of I wanted to move into this space of just spreading my message. And initially, I think that looked like, to me, being a coach and working with clients. And then as I became more clear, right, and as the vision sort of opened up even more, I started to realize that the transition was actually more than that, and that's how I came to even write the book, because I just started to look at different ways that I could spread my message, that it really didn't have to be just through coaching. It could be through writing a book. It could be through, speaking engagements. It could be through workshops. Yep. So, the transition, you're forever sort of like moving, through different various stages of what this even looks like.
Yeah. It's like an ebb and a flow. I always look at it, it kind of feels like water to me. It's just that ebb and flow, that transition. It depends on the day, and it depends on where we are at that season in our life. And, oh, my gosh, it's just like a water flow. And so I do have a question for you. Around when we're thinking about transition and that need to move, how important is that? Because you have that medical background. Have you seen any maybe through patients or maybe through your own experience, has there been any alignment between the ability to identify the fact that something's not quite right in my life, may not be a physical thing, but can start to turn into a physical thing when not addressed? Have you seen that or experienced that?
Oh, my gosh. Time and time and time and time again.
Talk about that a little bit. Yeah, that kept coming to my mind.
Absolutely. And, in hindsight, I think that all of the experience of going, of dealing with patients who I believe there definitely was something else going on underlying, is what even pushed me into this new space, right? Because I think that, as healthcare providers, we're trained to, diagnose, obviously, and then to treat. And a lot of times people were showing up with these, physical complaints or even illnesses and diseases that were often being exacerbated or being actually brought about because of things that were going on in their personal life. There were stresses at home, there were stresses in their relationships, there were stresses, on the job, and not being able to deal with those personal issues sometimes were presenting themselves as physical manifestations, fatigue, headache, abdominal pain, or, it was starting to become very hard to control their blood pressure, or their blood sugar because of the personal stress or the internal stress that was going on. So a lot of time was spent sometimes just dealing with that, so that we can get to the treatment and helping. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, when I think about it, I'm at this middle-aged place right now, and I find a lot of my friends and family members, all of a sudden they come up with the weirdest, ailments that are happening, that are in their lives. And I see the synergy based on the work that I'm doing now. I'm seeing the synergies there where, wow, that is odd. But I also know they've got things going on in their life that I think are contributing to that, because then they can't figure out what it is, and they get put on these medications, and it's trial and error, and then it kind of makes things worse. When if we just deal with the root of other things that may be happening in our life and getting those settled. I'd like to call it settling some things, right? All of a sudden, you see people at work and they're sick and they're having heart conditions and all these other things, and then they get laid off, and you'll see them 2 years later and they've never looked better.
Yeah.
Right? They look like a whole new human. That's definitely my story. Like a whole new human being. But it's because the stress. Yeah. And we don't. And what the problem is because our society is so high stress now. I don't even think we understand that we're under stress because we're so used to coping.
Right.
How damaging is that? I mean, that's why I think books like what you've got and other people have out there, I know I have out there, these steps are not just things to help you work through transition. They can actually help you have a healthier life. Because if you understand how to process these things and that the need to identify them is such a release, I can't even tell you. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, my gosh.
Absolutely. Yeah. And oftentimes, they want you to bring it out of them because for whatever reason, they don't feel like they want to discuss it, or, it's so much of a burden. And then once that sort of release is just there, it's like,
Yeah, it's a validation. Some of the teaching I do, I talk about validating your feelings. And you mentioned journaling earlier. And one of the things that I love about journaling, and I require it of anybody that works with me, journaling to me is a way for you to be able to validate your own feelings. Because when you write that thing down, that means that it is present, that it is there. And it gives it a place to put it. Because when it's just swirling around in your mind, it can turn into other things. We're not really processing it. Then we don't connect the dots. But when you write it down, there's something empowering about that to say, I'm feeling this, and it is legitimate, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but there it is.
Right.
At least I've written it down in concrete, black and white, to say that it's there. Is that something that you can relate to?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing like just writing it down and seeing it in black and white, instead of just kind of holding it in your head or wherever you're kind of hiding it or holding it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you said, when people actually share, and, we're always so guarded, whether we feel like everybody's so busy or they don't have time or everybody's going through it, so why complain? But it's something freeing about that. And to me, if you can't say it to somebody, write it down. Because that then validates it. And then maybe you'll take it to the next step and say it to somebody, because it'll release you. It's our own thoughts that keep us captive. It's our own thoughts a lot of times. We'll think that somebody's feeling or considering some way about us, but it really is the thoughts that are in our mind. I have seen people self-sabotage. I say that because I see it a lot. People self-sabotaging, whether it be things that they want in their life, or places that they want to be in their life, maybe a promotion, maybe it's a new business, maybe it's a relationship. Whatever that is, we can talk ourselves out of what we are supposed to have.
Yeah.
I don't know why we do that.
Yeah, we do.
We do. I mean, we all do it. We really all do it. Yeah. And so I like these steps, because I think they're helpful. It's affirming. And one of the things about your book is that it's all about empowerment, inspiring others, which is kind of where I was getting at with this, right?
Yes.
Because when you feel empowered and when you feel inspired, the talk track in your brain changes, right? It changes that talk track. And when that talk track can change, and start to speak things that can be, right? Or things that have the potential to be, or to disband those things that are not true, then we can start to accomplish some things and move into that next level. And so, with that empowerment and that inspiring message that I know you want people to hear, tell us the message that you would want people to really walk away with today, thinking about the work that you're doing and the work that you're going to be doing through that book that they can get their hands on.
Yeah, so I think the message really is that one is, like we talked about earlier, is to really own your story. We talked about that. Just get some real clarity about your current situation. And then once you have that clarity, move to the next stage, which is to change your story. What do you want your story to look like? What does living life in balance or taking back your life, what does that look like for you? And develop a plan for how you're going to get there. Because once you're in that space of changing your story and living life in balance and being at peace and fulfilled, you can then develop a new passion for life so that you can be your best, not only just for yourself, but also, for your loved ones and for people, who you serve, as well.
Yes, that's great. Well, I want folks to pick up that book. So I want you to take another minute to tell folks how they can connect with you, how they can get a copy of your book.
Yes. So they can get a copy of my book by visiting my website. That's www.justtherightbalance.com. It's also available on Barnes & Noble's website. You can also get the book as well on Amazon. But my website is the easiest and probably the best way just to get it. If you do order it through my website, then I can also autograph it for you as well.
Yeah, that's always good. That's always good. I love it. I love it. And so I am going to take another break. And when we come back, I want you to talk about those lessons that you learned along your journey, because we always get some great nuggets when we hear about the things that you learned along your way in your journey. And so I want you to talk about that when we get back.
Okay.
All right. Hang tight. Great. We'll be right back.
Hey, family. Thanks for tuning in. Did you know that you can actually attend a Shifting the Atmosphere show live with a studio audience? That's right. Every third Friday of the month, you can meet me in person and share in the discussion with my guests and other audience members. We have great giveaways, networking, and the opportunity to participate in interesting and thought-provoking discussions. The event is conveniently located in the heart of Montclair, New Jersey, and the venue has plenty of on-site parking. Check my website for upcoming event dates and topics, and I look forward to meeting you at Shifting the Atmosphere Live with Frederica.
And we're back. You're listening to Shifting the Atmosphere with Frederica, and I'm here today with author Lisa Herbert, and she's got a new book coming out, Take Back Your Life, and we've been talking all about that and some of the processes and things that she's got in the book with words of wisdom and things in order to be able to help you to get through transition, but also recognize transition so that you can start to move through it, and give you some great tools there to help you with that. And so as we talked right before the break, I want you to share some of the lessons, maybe the top 3, that you learned along your journey so far, because we know you're still journeying, but what are some of those key lessons that you learned along your way? Because there's always some good wisdom in hearing that.
Yeah, so I think some of the key lessons that I learned along the way, one definitely is to be patient. To really just sort of, let the journey unfold. I think a lot of times that we, want things immediately. We want the results to happen tomorrow. Yeah. And I think when we push ourselves, sometimes to that degree, it just creates so much chaos. Things are not peaceful. Things generally do not unfold how we want it to. So one of the lessons definitely I learned was just to be patient. Everything will fall in place in due time. Don't rush the process. And that everything doesn't have to be perfect right now. It's really the journey.
Yeah.
I think the other lesson I learned was, I don't know if it was a lesson or just something I had to kind of reaffirm again, was to really remember to put myself first, to take time out, for replenishing, and to take time out for just recharging my battery, because if I'm burnt out and I can't really, give to others, then that starts to develop a lot of internal, stress in myself as well. Mm-hmm. So that's the second.
Yeah.
And I think the third lesson was to be able to know that it's okay to set boundaries. And I think that was a big thing that I had to learn. Yeah, because I really had no boundaries. I would always say yes to everything, whether it meant that I had the time or not. So for me, just really learning how to set boundaries was one of the lessons that I learned. And I learned that it was okay to do that, and that other people would be okay with me saying no, as long as I presented it in a way, that was really authentic, and that really just let them know that, no just means no right now, but maybe we can do it, later.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Those are some huge lessons, because I tell you, all three of those can seem impossible sometimes, right? I mean, they sound so simple, like be patient. I'm looking at that going, yeah, I'm still learning that lesson. We want it yesterday, right? If we have the idea, then it needs to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And sometimes we're not patient, and it really can make a mess. A mess. And then we spend so much more time cleaning it up just because we couldn't be a little patient.
Right.
And so I think that's where that prayer comes in. I think that when we understand that there is a higher power, and that that God really has our best interest in mind and in heart, and believing that, it allows us to be more patient, because we feel like we have to take things into our own hands. And sometimes we need to let them unfold naturally, because there's some things we need to see. And there's some things that we need to learn along that way.
Yeah,
when we're being patient, there's so much learned in patience. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
And recharging, are you kidding me? Type A personality, we don't need that. What are you talking about? Oh, I need some sugar.
Right. And some coffee.
I don't even need sugar. Yeah. And actually, type A's usually don't even need anything to keep them going. But recharging, and I know that for me, that's one thing I've had to learn, especially as I started my own business, and I am way too creative for my own abilities sometimes, and have my hands in too many things. And I don't rest. But what happens when you hit that wall, and that's when some of those physical ailments start kicking in. Yeah. So recharging is huge, even if it is, and I give you an example, like this week I was so tired. Oh my gosh. Lisa, I was so tired this week. By the time Sunday came along, I was falling asleep in church while we were praying. I said, oh, darn shame.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. I have got to go home and get some rest. And the only way for me to do it, I literally had to keep praying for myself to get some rest. But I had to shut that phone off. I didn't just shut the phone off. I turned it on Do Not Disturb. So that I could know if somebody called me tomorrow when I look at it. But I had to force myself. I had to literally force myself. And I had to just not allow myself to get not a book, nothing that was going to re-engage my mind, because I needed to sleep. And when I did that, oh my gosh, I slept all day. When it got nighttime, I didn't even turn the lights on. I know my neighbors were like, what in the world? Because you could see me walking around in there. I just didn't have lights. I just didn't have lights on. It was like I was in a womb. I was in a big womb.
Yes.
And there's something
is
to
so
that.
Important.
Oh my goodness. Or just getting away from your environment.
Yes.
Driving down to the beach. Yes, in the winter. I love it. Personally. It's wonderful down there. Just got to bundle up. Or whatever. Go to a movie. Just go somewhere and change your scenery for a day. You will be surprised at how much more you'll accomplish when you get back.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And how much better your body feels. You almost feel like whenever I do that, I look at myself the next day and I feel like I lost 2-3 pounds. And I probably did.
Yes.
Because your body gets a chance to process everything. So it goes, okay, I can work now, and you don't keep pulling me so I can't rest and recharge. So for anybody, that's going to give you some motivation. You can lose a couple pounds, get some recharge. And then setting boundaries is probably one of the harder things. I mean, that is really difficult, right? Because guilt, the guilt that kicks in, and as women,
Men, I feel like men have an easier time with it. So men, if you don't agree with me, I want you to reach out and talk about it. But I really feel like women have a harder time with the boundaries because we're caregivers.
Yes.
Even singles.
Yes.
We want to be caregivers to our friends or family, whatever, right?
Yep.
So hard.
It's very hard. I think it's, for women, it's just sort of, it's in our DNA, it's a natural thing for us to take care of other people. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But we have to take care of ourselves.
We do.
And I think it's usually that moment where something tragic happens or something happens that your body is going, hello. Then you realize, oh boy, I
need to take a step back.
Yeah, I got to take a step back and say no. No is a nice word. One of the things I heard recently, I think my pastor said it on Sunday, was that people that are self-confident are able to say no.
They are. Absolutely. I agree 100%. And there's no guilt about it. And there's no guilt about it. Yeah.
Yes. It is a sign of how secure you are with yourself. And I had to agree with that. It's the insecurity that makes us say yes. Because if I don't say yes, then maybe I won't get accepted.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Or
exactly.
something's going to happen. It's going to be my fault. It's all those things, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So hopefully I motivated somebody. So somebody's listening to this show today for sure. And they're listening to all the stuff that we're talking about with, just honoring self and the things that you need to do to really have clarity in your life so that you can live your best life, right? Live up to your potential. What would you say to someone listening to this show today? What would you want them to walk away with while you have this captive audience?
Yeah, so I think what I would like to have people walk away with is just to believe in yourself. Believe in yourself enough to feel like you have the courage and the strength to really just move yourself to the next level. And whatever that means for you, because it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But wherever you feel like you need to be in your life personally or professionally or spiritually, just to know that, you have the courage and the strength and the inner wisdom, the power to do that, and that you can take that step and you can do it.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So I want you to, so you have any events coming up? Can anybody connect with you? Like, are you going to have some talks coming up? So tell us about that. What events do you have coming up?
Yeah, so I have a couple of events coming up, actually. I have a book signing on March the 11th at Above Art Studios in New Brunswick, March 11th from 4 to 6.
Okay.
Also a guest speaker for Sister to Sister Women's Conference, March 24th. And that's at the Doubletree Hotel in Somerset, New Jersey. And there's also a retreat coming up April 5th through the 8th. The retreat is All About Me Retreat, which you can find on Facebook. It's a weekend of reflection and empowerment for women, and I'll be one of the guest speakers there. So if you'd like to register for that event, just look at that Facebook, All About Me Retreat, or you can go to Eventbrite and register there.
Wonderful. And can they find this information about your events on your website?
Yes. They can also find this information on my website as well. Yes.
And tell us your website again.
It's www.justtherightbalance.com.
Wonderful. Now, is your book released? Or is it releasing? It is released.
It's released, so it's available. So, again, you can just go to my website. There's a link for the book right on the main page, and there's also a link in the menu for the book as well. Click on there, and definitely you can get inspired and, get some help with taking back your life and moving through the transition by just visiting my website, and you can purchase the book.
Love it. I love it. So this has been so enlightening. I think this book is going to be phenomenal. I'm imagining you're going to do some book touring over the summer. I can't even imagine that you're not.
Yes,
right?
Yes. Yes, definitely. And I'll have all that information,
on that
on my website as well as the events unfold, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so cool that you're moving into this new season in your life and still helping people, but just in a different way.
Absolutely.
It's so awesome. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm excited about it.
I'm excited for you, and I'm glad we were able to showcase your book and some of the work that you're doing. And I think some people are really going to be able to get some clarity, and hopefully they'll reach out to you. So you can work with them, a little bit more closely to help them move through that transition. Because as a professional, I get that, So if somebody's listening today that's in one of those career professions that is frowned upon from leaving, like, being a medical doctor or being a lawyer or, some of those professions that are a little bit more, what I call, they're kind of ingrained. Those are things that you have been, purposed to do from the time that you were in, high school almost,
Right.
And so that's a huge transition. Huge.
That is a huge transition. Yeah. Because I think the expectation, again, it's an expectation, right? So the expectation of others is that why are you transitioning out of this? You should be doing this until, you're whatever, you're ready to retire or, until you're 65 or, however old. So, so the expectation I think that others have on us when we have these titles sort of sometimes hold us back from moving forward if that's what we choose to do. And we all have a choice, and that's what makes it beautiful, that you have a choice to do what you want in life.
Yeah. Yep. I totally love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Miss Lisa. It's been great having you here.
Yes, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been wonderful. And I hope you and the listeners have a blessed week.
Thank you so much.
Hey, this is Frederica. Thanks so much for listening to my podcast today. I upload new shows here every week. And if you subscribe to my channel, you'll get notified when new shows have been uploaded. You can check out all my past episodes from season 2 right here on this podcast station. Now, to find out more information about me, visit my website at www.fredericapeterson.com. Here you'll have access to my latest blogs, information about upcoming guests and events, and so much more. I also encourage you to become a part of my Shifting the Atmosphere community by subscribing to news and events. Here you'll get updates directly from me when I've got something new coming down the pike. Now, I'd love to hear from you, so drop me a note and let me know how I'm doing. Better yet, let me know some other topics of interest that you want to hear about right here on the show. You can catch me on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So until next time, keep shifting your atmosphere. Be well and be blessed.